to the inaugural episode of How We Do It Better, where in our infinite wisdom, not so much, we have taken a look at an existing anime work, and we're going to look at what did not work for us and what we think could be changed to make it work better. And on this episode, I've got with me Matt Dixon from the Licensed Kins of Anime. Welcome, Matt.
Hi, Brent. How are you?
Doing well. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic because I'm about to pretend I am an anime director.
Exactly, and that is kind of the point. We're going to look
because we have years of experience with this stuff.
Tons.
We've watched it for years, and of course we know how it should be done.
Exactly. Just like we all live in houses, so we know how to make one.
Yeah. So, I mean, come on. If you go on the forums, of course you know how it works.
Exactly. That's how it works. And today we decided we take it easy on ourselves. And so we're going with a movie by the acknowledged master of modern animation, Hayao Miyazaki. And today we're looking at Ponyo, a.k.a. Ponyo on the Cliff by the Sea. It came out...
Totally not going to annoy anyone with this.
No. This will be a completely unproblematic review. Everyone will be happy at the end.
No, it's not like anyone's going to watch this. People disliking Ponyo, this happens all the time.
And that might be the surprise for a lot of folks, is that, like when I went and watched Ponyo, I came back and kind of shocked some of my friends by saying that I was kind of unimpressed. Or at least that there were some significant flaws I saw in that. So we're going to talk those over. And let's start by talking about the direction in general in terms of cinematography and editing and so forth. And this is actually one of my major issues with Ponyo. But before we start, let me ask you this. Do you think it's worth going over sort of the premise and sort of introducing Ponyo?
Well, I guess people already here, they've watched Ponyo.
Yeah. Okay. So we're assuming you watched Ponyo. One of my main issues with Ponyo is that it felt like it had a fair amount of, for lack of a better word, fat. There were quite a few shots and sequences in there that didn't advance the story, didn't really reveal character. They were just there to sort of, they were padding, but they didn't really add anything to the film. One example was the sequence near the end where they come across that little boating family, the husband, wife, and child. It's a lovely little scene, and it is kind of there to allow Ponyo to exert a lot of her magic powers. But it's there and we move on, and there's nothing else really there. It's just there to make Ponyo look cute and helpful. And so I don't know why it was there, I guess.
Yeah, it was definitely a really enjoyable scene, putting aside the fact that, seeing it fat, I really liked the scene, it's an enjoyable scene. It didn't advance the story in any way. It didn't actually tell us anything about the characters, not even Ponyo. It just said, Ponyo is helping people.
Yeah.
Because we don't know why. She just does it. And there's nothing significant about it.
And I think that might as well bring up the other main thing that we've talked about. One of the issues is that what the heck is going on?
Yeah, pretty much. Why is the world flooded? Oh shit.
And I was rewatching this, so I watched it the first time in theaters. I came to one of the, when I went to rewatch it, I was like, okay, did I just have a bad reaction? I was watching it and I was like, okay, so we've got this wizard guy, and he's doing something in the ocean, no idea what, and this little fish girl is going away, and she kind of doesn't want to know she's going away, and he's worried because she's leaving. Cut.
Yep.
Okay. And there's a lot of stuff in here that doesn't really, that is never explained, and because it's established with no, here's the thing, I am totally cool with fantasy that's not completely explained.
Yeah, definitely.
But when you have a world like this that is so far beyond what we understand of fantasy and so forth, I can't tell what I should be sympathizing with or what are the dangers when it's just kind of stuff happening, when you have these magical urns with this glowy stuff in it. Is that dangerous? Is it radioactive? I don't know what it is. And that was one of my big problems is there was just so little motivation in there.
Yeah, we don't understand what exactly he's doing in this big well of magicness that's filled with magic goo. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
But, we don't know what it is, what his intentions are. All we know is he doesn't like humans.
Yeah.
Even though he looks pretty similar to us, breathes air, the only thing that makes him not human is this Fujimoto's character needs to walk around and spray salt water on his feet when he's on the land, but when he's in his underwater house, he just, for some reason, doesn't have the capacity to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't really get why he needs to do that. What is the point of that in the film? There's this one scene where he's walking around spraying his feet. Not his entire body. Yeah. If it was his entire body with salt water, he had like some sort of weird umbrella that covered him in salt water, then I could get it. But it's his feet,
Yeah.
He's not that lizard in the desert that can suck water up his feet, He's a dude.
Yeah.
And spraying his feet isn't going to keep him humidified.
Yeah.
It seems a bit of pointless filler. And the kids, because this is a kid's film, this is one of the Ghibli films, this is the most kid film ever.
Yes.
It's, kids aren't going to notice that. They're just going to look at him and think, he's doing something with Hank. They're really not going to listen or watch for that kind of for an explanation. It's the adults that want the explanation. And of course, Ghibli has had that tradition of being a film for everyone, film for the entire family. And then it's done a U-turn with Ponyo.
And that's exactly true. This is really not a family film. This is a children's film.
Yeah.
Teenagers are going to watch this and be kind of bored. Adults are going to watch this and, again, be confused at what's going on. It's kind of funny because if you look at other Ghibli films, other general family-friendly films in Japan, they are very comprehensible. It's very easy to understand what's going on. It's why, we're going to get one or two comments of folks saying, but it's fantasy, it shouldn't necessarily make total logical sense. That's not the issue. I'm totally fine with fantasy being weird. It's just that when I have no idea why that, when I have no idea of the danger. And then, like, halfway through, we established that Fujimoto wants to create this world of the ocean. And he's gathering all this stuff to do all that. Okay, so he's evil and insane. And then he's kind of a good guy from that point on.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, all of Japan, specifically just Japan, we'll get into that a bit later, why only Japan is good. It's actually happened, and he's quite upset about it.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, I mean, he's going nuts about how Ponyo is. And that's another thing. Okay, so apparently Ponyo is the key to all of this. Why?
Yeah, what about her other 100 siblings? They just happen to be 5 years younger than her. I didn't know fish laid an egg, waited 5 years, and then gave birth to 1,000 more. I mean, again, they're being grounded in realism and fantasy, and then just throwing realism out the window.
Yeah. So that is an issue. Now, the one thing is that this is all set in a beautifully animated thing. I think, no question, this is one of the most beautifully drawn things ever done.
Oh, definitely, without a doubt, yeah.
And it just adds, I was looking through, because one of the things I wanted to talk about was animation, and, I was like, nothing. I have no comments. Perfect. There's just nothing wrong there, and Ghibli, it should be, noted that they are keeping up with their standard of absolutely flawless character animation that has all those wonderful little bits of realism. There's a moment where the mother puts down a mug of tea on the table and then like pushes it forward a little bit with her hand and then takes her hand away. And it's just one of those little natural idiosyncratic movements that all the folks have. You just don't see animators extra work. And it's a wonderful little thing.
It's frames that most animators don't have. That's what that's one of the things we've come to expect from Ghibli. But that sort of raises the question: are they focusing too much on this kind of thing and just forgetting about the story?
I think that is certainly an issue. Those were really pretty fish.
Those were awesome-looking fish. I have never seen better fish in an anime.
Yes.
They were just absolutely brilliant fish.
And we saw a lot of them. And that's one of the issues is that especially once Japan gets flooded, we see these underwater fish, and we keep seeing underwater fish, and we see it going on and on. It's kind of like, okay, I get your point.
Yeah, and there's a weird thing of they keep bringing up. They never say that the fish are prehistoric, but if you're a sad person like me and when you were 7 obsessed with paleontology, you will know that pretty much all of the fish that are shown when Japan is flooded are prehistoric fish.
Yeah.
And they're making a big deal of naming these fish, making sure people that know paleontology who won't be watching this film know that they're prehistoric fish. Yeah. What is the significance that these are prehistoric fish?
Exactly. And how did these prehistoric fish come back to life?
Yeah, it's just because the ocean got higher. No, that's not how it works.
And I can assume this because, Fujimoto says at some point that this golden honey stuff that he's developing will recreate the ocean as of this time period.
Yeah.
But, again, very tenuous connections there. And one of the things
Speaking of the magic well of awesomeness, that is what it will be referred to, the magic well of awesomeness. The one thing I did notice is when he's entering the magic well of awesomeness, you can only just see the sign above it, and the sign says Pangea.
Yeah.
It's this. There's so many hints to prehistory.
Yeah.
And it's like,
well, even the jars. Even the jars have years on them. 1907, 1950 are written on the jars. And again, so what does that mean? If you take these samples in different periods in history,
the whole thing gives this massive feel that this was supposed to be, this was actually secretly being directed by Peter Jackson and was 7 hours long.
Yes, I really wanted the program guide to this. Where's the 3-page explanation of all the backstory of these characters? There's a lot there that isn't really explained. And like we said, there's a lot of lovely animated sequences that are kind of there to be lovely animated sequences and aren't really pushing things forward. I felt I could, one could probably, it's one of how I do it better. I cut out probably about 20% of the film. None of the scenes, none of the plot. There's a lot of these. We're watching things. We established X, and we're going to watch it for another 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm totally cool with sitting in something and actually one of the interesting things is that the movie never really slows down enough for us to really appreciate a lot of the moments.
Yeah, definitely.
I love the sequence when they're trying to signal the father, and the mother comes out with the antenna and puts it down and all looking out at the ocean. It's a long sequence and it's wonderful. It's
actually one of the only really serious bits of the film, and they did it quite well because Ponyo is still acting all happy and go lucky because she doesn't understand why they're upset, and it really is one of the best sequences, this one scene of the entire film.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the rest is there's a little bit of padding, I have to say. Okay, so art quality fantastic, and actually they get back to the characters. Hayao Miyazaki is famous for a quote from an article where he talks about villains in adventure films. And he says basically the problem is if you want multi-dimensional characters multi-dimensional villains in an adventure film, you have to spend half the movie establishing why they're doing what they're doing, or you make them Nazis. And it really is the problem. You either spend all of your action time explaining their motivations, or you just make them, demon spawn. And that's one of the problems with one of the situations with Ponyo, because it is definitely a children's film and it's focusing very much on these little moments, and it has this sort of adventure story vibe. You don't really get into the characters too much. But I felt they did an excellent job with what time they had in establishing things like the mother's personality, Sosuke's personality, things like that. Those I thought were pretty well rounded.
Well, I had a problem with Sosuke, just early on in the film. At least in the Japanese version, Sosuke is constantly made out to be a lot more mature. I know this is it's pretty much thrown out the window in the dub. But Sosuke only calls his mother by her name, by Lisa, and it's supposed to show not like he doesn't respect her, but a deeper relationship between them that just, complete and utter trust, and he's more mature, he's older than a 5-year-old in the head, and just the way he talks to people, he's shown to be more mature, but there's this one bit where he's known Ponyo for 10 minutes, and she just lies, she's sleeping, and he starts crying, out of nowhere. This kid's supposed to be really mature, and there's a difference between knowing someone for 5 years, being an incredibly mature person, and him dying and you crying. That's fair enough. Of course you're going to cry. You've known him for so long.
Right.
He's known Ponyo, a fish, for 10 minutes. That is not mature.
Yeah. And the thing is, absolutely have an emotional reaction.
Oh, definitely, You just cannot avoid going, bugger, my fish is dead.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like when
you're first into tears.
Right, it's like when you're young, you're going to be vulnerable. But yeah, I agree. It was a very strong reaction for a kid that mature and that, connected to me. And again, it felt like, in a lot of the film felt like there was backstory or explanation for everything we were seeing. We were just never going to see any of that.
Yeah.
So I get the feeling there would be some reason for that. It would be fun to go back and psychoanalyze this in terms of why the characters are acting like that and what might be the reason, especially in terms of the father being away. One thing I really liked actually was the characterization of the mother.
Definitely, I really loved Lisa as a character.
Yeah, and it actually took me until this viewing to realize she's not Japanese.
No?
Lisa's not a Japanese name.
Duh.
Yeah.
And the father is sailing to the States.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and she has a very sort of non-stereotypically Japanese personality. Very bouncy and outgoing in a way that's not typically Japanese. And, it's stereotypically Japanese. And I like the fact that she is wonderfully caring, wonderfully present, wonderfully working. I love how she accepts Ponyo into her house. She's like, clearly she does not know what's going on, but she's like, okay, there'll be time to figure that out. For right now, you get these kids into my house and warmed up and so forth. At the same time, she drives like a maniac. and I love the fact that they then, establish that later on, of saying, once she drives off and you see her careening through the mountains, you go, oh dear. This may not end well. And once you see Sosuke starting to worry about it, you realize, he has every reason to be worried about her safety at this point.
Yeah.
So that was great. It is unfortunate that we don't, we basically get her, we get some stuff with Sosuke. That's about it.
Yeah, Ponyo is very little characterized.
Yeah.
What she says, everything that comes out of her mouth is cute.
Yeah.
There is no denying how incredibly cute she is every time she has to put her hand in. And says she's so cute. She's just a big ball of fluffy fluff that's cute. Essentially, obviously she doesn't look like fluff, she looks like a person. But, she's there to just look cute. Yeah. She's basically a tribble. A piece of fluff that hers.
The trouble with Ponyo, that's to be the name of this episode. But absolutely, and that is her purpose, is to be this strange, cute thing that then gets thrown into these characters' lives and they have to deal with. But
I guess particularly the animation I just want to bring up with Ponyo really quickly is the fact that every time she uses magic, she becomes the frog thing again. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Just the way it was animated. There's this one bit where she, where she's getting the generator working, and you see the transformation of her hand and her face. Beautifully well done. If you are not paying attention, you don't notice it. It just happens. But if you really look, you can see that the colour changes. The hand actually morphs into a 3-fingered thing.
And it is really hard to draw that.
I do not know many people that could do that.
So that was certainly well done, and certainly in general the animation and such. And I actually want to get back a little bit to just the whole world issue. Is that throughout it, I'm watching all this stuff happen, and about halfway through the film, I found myself disengaging from it because so much stuff was left unexplained. And of course, the question is how to fix that. And for me, I would have liked to have seen some monologuing by the wizard, some explanations from some of the characters, especially from him, because he's the only one who knows what's going on.
And there are plenty of scenes to do that,
yeah.
Especially the scene when where we cut to Ponyo, Sophie's father, and his son, just completely lost at sea, and they come across the mountain of water, pretty much a vertical line of water, which makes no sense.
Which we then...
Again, there is fantasy, and then just pointless, weird. Why would it make just a big wall around Japan? Why not just flood the earth?
Yeah. Which we then completely forget about, I should point out.
Yeah.
That's never mentioned again. Suddenly all the ships can now return to land. We don't know why. Presumably it's because of, Ponyo has now become, I don't know, the sacrifice for the match. I don't know what's going on there. But, that is something, and which gets back to that point of, if that scene wasn't in the film, would that have been a problem? No.
No, totally not.
It doesn't tell us anything other than the fact that the father's still alive, which is nice. But other than that, there's weird stuff happening out in the ocean. That's all we get. And I guess it's establishing the fact that Ponyo escaping from her father and licking the blood of a human causes the moon to
change because she licked his tongue.
The moon, look up, that's darn close for the moon to be. That's scary.
Again, it's the idea of fantasy and stupidity. If the moon was that close, Earth would crash. Continents would literally move.
Yeah.
That happened.
Yeah. Which is just...
The ocean, it wouldn't just be the ocean that makes a big blooming vertical wall. The continent would move. And part of why, at least I'm making a big deal out of this, is that this is not how Hayao Miyazaki works. Again, it's weird how suddenly Hayao Miyazaki's focus on story
and realism
has taken essentially a nosedive and then gone into the core of the earth, gone out the other side and kept going.
Yeah, he's always been noted for his realism, for having, his fantasy is always grounded in some concept of how things work. Howl's Moving Castle is a great example, where there's lots of weird stuff going on there, but I never once thought, well, I'm disengaging from this because of that. All that makes sense. This is just crazy. And again, part of the problem is that, in Howl's Moving Castle, for example, the magic is either something that causes, a physical change to the main character, or it's it's a spice to the story. It's flavor. There's interesting stuff going on, but that's not crucial to what the main character is going through. The main character is trying to find people, whatever. In Ponyo, because everything is motivated by this magic, it becomes much more important to understand why that magic works the way it works.
And Ghibli has been known to explain entire weird things with one sentence. Like, for example, Spirited Away, at first we're seeing all these weird people walk into a bathhouse, and then I can't remember the woman with the big nose name. She simply said, "This is a bathhouse for the spirits." Everything is explained in one sentence.
Yeah.
And they couldn't do it with Ponyo in an entire film.
Yeah. And that's how I do it better. Is add some information explaining some of this, and again, getting back to that idea of it being a children's movie, the children won't care if you explain it.
Yeah.
The adults will. And by adding that level of explanation, and at least some logic behind it, then it allows the adults to stay engaged, and the kids can just sit back and enjoy it anyway.
And also, adults liking it really does affect DVD sales. Because the adults are going to say, "Oh yeah, I went to see this with my daughter, and she really loved it, and it was okay. I understood what was going on.
Yeah.
An adult being able to watch a film with their child is an important thing because the adults have to sit and watch it. They can't go and do other stuff if their child is too young. They have to supervise.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they can, if they want to at least get something out of it, that sounds kind of selfish, but that's true.
Right.
They want to get something out of it. They want to get a story out of it. And if they can't get that, they're just going to say, buy the real Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Apparently, Ponyo is based off the Little Mermaid.
Yeah, kind of.
No. No. Just no. Simple as. It's not.
Yeah,
there is a character that looks like the Little Mermaid. And that's Ponyo's mum, but nothing else.
Yeah, it's based on the Little Mermaid in the same sense that the Cars is based on South Hollywood. No. Anyway, actually, a couple other things to point out. Yoshihisa Ishii's music score in this is actually quite interesting. It fits perfectly, as it always does, but it actually bounces around a lot more than I expected his soundtrack to. There's some very dramatic pieces, some very quiet pieces, and normally Yoshihisa Ishii's soundtrack, if you listen to the soundtrack to Princess Mononoke versus My Neighbor Totoro, He's Living Service, they all the pieces share a very similar sort of theme and feel to them. Kiki's pretty upbeat and light. Totoro is very sort of quiet and elegant. It just bounces around a lot. It works, and I'm not complaining. But it's something interesting that it could be very bold and brassy and very quiet and just all over the place.
But you could say, if we're digging deep into a children's film, this is me going deep. Because that's what we do, we go deeper.
Exactly.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
You could say it reflects Ponyo's personality.
Yeah.
A children's film is really going to do that.
Yeah.
But this film makes it important that the prehistoric fish. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did it.
Yeah.
And again, it's just another question of why. In this case, something good came out of it. And with the fish, something came out go down there. With the fish, you got some awesome looking fish.
Yeah.
And with the music, you got some pretty good music. You got some entertaining and scene-fitting music.
Yeah. Yeah. No real complaints there. I did want to mention the voice acting. Now, I listened to the English dub. Every single voice I thought fit very well. There's not a single voice that was wrong. Kristen Freeman's in there somewhere. I'd like to dig in and find him. The one issue I have is not voice acting, which is the whole adaptation. There's some weird pseudo-translation in the English dub. There's one point at which Toki is called Toki-san by the kid. But san and chan and so forth are never used anywhere else in the film. And he says sensei a few times, which is very odd in a film that is very well translated otherwise. You see just these little outliers of Japanese language, especially for a film aimed at 6-year-olds. I didn't understand why, again, he couldn't just say teacher, or use a name, or for Toki-san, Mrs. Toki, solved. So that was odd.
And again, I can understand why they've removed the associate calling Lisa, because the film's aimed at 6-year-olds. But at the same time, it was one of the most important parts of characterization in the film.
Yeah.
And they've removed it in the dub.
Yeah.
He calls her mom. Again, for me it's mom. But he doesn't. They've removed that, and again, just in the dub. Associates just a little bit more immature. Yeah. I mean, he's not immature, but at the same time, he's not as mature as he is in the film.
Yeah. I kind of wonder if that's some marketing guy. Just someone who doesn't understand. Who knows? Yes. And since we're talking about audio, the end song.
Oh my God! Do you really want to get into this? Because it's some of the rest of the show will be wild.
Yes. So let's not change that. How I Do It Better. Don't change the ending song.
Oh no, you keep it the same.
Yeah.
It's so amazingly brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to get the third.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Very disappointing to change that, but fair enough. Our point has been made. So anything else you want to do?
A couple things. Again, another thing like they did with the fish, they made it a big effort to show that Tokyo's house is environmentally friendly.
Yes.
In the fact that they had a tank of water in the back, they got the propane, all this stuff, and it's like, why? The kids aren't going to understand that this means Sosuke and Lisa are part of the problem that Fujimoto doesn't like. It's just why? There's these things that only adults will understand, but the adults will be asleep at this point.
Yeah.
They will be crashed out. They'll have done the heroin just to get something entertaining out of this film.
This would be fun on acid.
Most Ghibli films will be better on acid. That's not to say they're bad, but it would be made better by acid. But yeah, it's just this weird idea of, look, Sasuke's a good guy. Kids aren't going to notice that unless you blatantly say our house is environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
You would have to hand it on a silver platter, and there is nothing wrong with doing that. Again, they really need to understand their focus of this film. Do we want to just completely go children's film? And I think if they did, it would have been an awesome film.
Yeah.
I would have had very little complaints because it would have been obvious that it's 100% children.
Yeah.
Or, because that'd be a good move for Ghibli, to just do for once 100% children's film.
Yeah.
And then, all they could have just said, let's make another film for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, would have been an awesome film.
Yeah.
But they've sort of gone in this weird limbo between it and not really understood what they want to do.
Well, it's kind of like, I like to compare this to My Neighbor Totoro. Because that is very much a children's film. It still remains very entertaining to other people. But, you show that to a 50-year-old, and he's going to know very much that it's aimed at children. But at the same time, that is a film that I have shown that film to folks from 6 to 60 years old, and everyone has been entranced by it. Because it knows exactly, Miyazaki was brilliant in understanding how to set up characters, how to keep a story moving even when there's no conflict and no villain and no antagonist. He could do that with Totoro, and you're absolutely right. Ponyo could have done that and just been a sort of exploratory film of this stuff going on. But because because they add some larger stuff, like the mother being a bit of an eco freak, and the stuff with the father, and so there's not much stuff with the father. That could remain in. But the
kids would relate to that. They'd instantly feel sorry in that scene. They'd be like, what if my daddy was at sea and I never saw him? It would instantly relate to that.
Yes, it was a really effective plot line. But it's very interesting how that there's this sort of, it is trying to be very kid friendly, and yet there's this, I think in a sense it's trying to be too kid friendly.
Oh, definitely.
There's just too much. We're going to throw pretty pictures of children, and I'm assuming that part of the reason for that environmental stuff in there is kind of to normalize it for children. This is just the way things should be, living in this very eco-friendly way of doing things, which again is fine. But when we don't have anything to compare that against, and when it's just sort of sitting there, it's just a little frustrating and weird. I don't know.
Well, the last thing I wanted to bring up, I do have one other thing if we have time, is my own How I Do It Better. And this is how I would just completely change the story, but keep it, take the one of my favourite elements of the film and make that the film. The last quarter of the film, or like part of the last quarter, Sosuke and Ponyo get on a little boat and just sail around. And between little islands and stuff like that. So keep doing that. Remove all the magic, all the weird stuff. Don't even explain why Japan is flooded. Don't even say Japan. Just say they're in this weird place where everything's flooded and they're going around on a little boat helping people, meeting people, and all they're trying to do is find Sosuke's mum. That is the entire film. It makes it a massive film without magic, without anything. The only thing out of reality Miyazaki about this film is that everything's flooded and these two kids can survive on their own.
Yeah.
You know? And that would have made an awesome children's movie.
Absolutely. It's Future Boy Conan, basically. Which is one of Miyazaki's most impressive works. For those who don't know, there's a TV series he made back in the, I'm going to get this wrong, late 70s, I think. It would be about right. Which is essentially, it's Castle in the Sky for 50 episodes. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, by throwing in all of this magic stuff and all of this sort of backstory, if you will, to the situation, it really confuses the issue where if it were just, here are these two characters, and then like you say, give Ponyo magic powers. Okay. That would be interesting. She can affect things in certain ways. She's just limited. And they're just trying to do this stuff. That would be fascinating.
Yeah, because like I said, one of my favorite scenes of the film was when they come across the couple. This other. It's because it's kind of a weird meeting of stories. A lot of films have done this before. Like Two Boats. They're in this massive world where you hardly ever see anyone else. You hardly ever see anyone but the person you're traveling with. And then these two lives cross for just a moment and interact. And, they help each other. And then not only do they help each other physically, they help each other just mentally. They give other people this social interaction they've been longing for so long. That was awesome. Obviously it's a little toned down because they haven't been lost at sea for 20 years. They're just but they've come across these two lines, these two separate movements. Once they're done talking, they part ways. They're gone and never meet again. Well, obviously they do in this film because they're in the same town. But in the way I would do the film, they just part ways and be gone with it. And at some point they would meet a talking beaver.
Okay. Who would take them to Aslan? Is that where we're going there?
No, really. It would just be adding talking animals. Again, would make it a better children's film. Just at one point, they meet a beaver that's just sat on the shore, chilling.
Hello.
And they say, and the kids aren't freaked out that they talk. The beaver just talk. That ain't how I would do it better. Remove everything up to the last quarter and the end of the film and extend that one bit massively and add talking beavers.
By the way, quick conspiracy theory. I think that that couple on the boat is the same couple that Satsuki stumbles across in My Neighbor Totoro when she's going to try to find May and she comes across the couple in the tractor. I think those are the same character designs aged by like 5 years. I'm not sure I have to go back and look at it, but I looked at it and I was like, they look familiar. Oh my gosh!
You're probably right.
So,
now that I'm thinking about it, yes, I can just see it now.
So, I don't know. That was fun. So,
and again, that's just another drop in quality on the Ghibli side. I mean, I'm happy to reuse character designs, but that's kind of cool. But again, they kind of use the character designs in the same way. These characters are pretty much 100% the same. Chance meeting, talk for 5 seconds, gone. It's like, don't use the same side characters, because the time it takes you to design someone that isn't even a secondary character is 5 minutes. So don't be lazy, Ghibli.
Well,
don't be lazy, Miyazaki.
Fortunately, Ponyo has no references to any other Miyazaki movies. There's no sequence where they're entering a long, dark tunnel, which is very scary, which is not at all a Spirited Away. There are quite a few, and granted, I mean, Miyazaki's known for doing this, sort of reusing elements from previous work. But it's definitely there a lot in Ponyo. And again, it's another example of, they're scared, they go into this thing, and then apparently that makes Ponyo dry out. So why do we have a big scary thing? They could have just been walking along dry land and she could have dried out. That would have been fine. So we add this extra element, which doesn't add anything, and again, there's a lot of kind of sloppiness there, which kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
So that's it for me. Anything else from you?
well, I guess we could just give like a final verdict on the film. And my final verdict is, of just how they made this film, is that all the stuff we did with, right? I'm saying this to you now. They got together on a Friday night. There was only a limited amount of McDonald's left. So they shared it, got high, sat around the table and said, Little Mermaid, who thinks about it? Seriously, wouldn't it be better if she was 5 years old? Let's do it. And then they all started drawing. That is how they, that is how the film is made. And Brent, how was the film made for you?
My main issue with the film, again, getting back to how I do it better, is there is a strong story here. This felt to me actually like Miyazaki came in and said, I've got this great idea, here are the storyboards. And he laid out, the storyboards for the story he was going to tell. And what normally happens in those situations is folks come in and say, okay, that's good, this seems a little long, this seems like, we could change this. Instead they all went,
Pretty much.
And Miyazaki said, it's one of the problems he has now is that no one's willing to, critique his master vision.
Go against him.
Well, exactly. So I think this is one of those things where he came up with an idea that, again, like you said, there are lots of ways you could take this story and make it really interesting. I'd love to see more with Sosuke and Ponyo living together in a house. Take kind of the Totoro view, where you spend a lot of time with these girls getting used to this new house. That would be really interesting. There are a lot of different things you could go with that. You could even have larger plot lines. But it just felt like, the story felt like it was about 80% there. And it just needed more work, it needed more editing, and it needed more going back and forth, but there was just no one to do it. No one willing to do it. And as a result, we get something that is... It's funny, it's not that I'm dissatisfied with the movie per se. I finished watching it and I was like, that was fun. There's some neat, beautiful stuff there. And I would certainly show it to other people. I'm not like, this is terrible. But at the same time, I don't recommend it the way I recommend other Ghibli films.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I personally love Ponyo as a film. But at the same time, it has so many problems with it.
Yeah.
But, it's something I say a lot on R&D is something, that now I just take my brain out and watch. Not to say that Ponyo isn't an intelligent film, because of course, 5-year-olds performing magic and turning into frogs is, just Shakespeare.
Right.
But it's a film to relax to. It's a film to just chill. So to not 100% be there, or, to just sort of, at the same time be thinking, what if you bred a brown sheep with a black sheep? What would happen?
Brack sheep? I don't know.
You would get brack.
Yes.
You would get a brick. Why? I don't know. It would look like a brick. It would physically look like a brick. Even that small. But yeah, it's just I love Ponyo. But again, it just has all these problems there. And you can love a film, and the reason you love it is because you like it despite these problems.
Yeah. And I think that's a great final thought is, despite everything we've said, Ponyo is still a superior watching experience to 98% of films in existence.
Well, true. I mean, Miyazaki made it.
There are far, far, far worse things to show your 6-year-old. It is a very... I'm trying to find a way of saying this. It isn't just, it's good! But yeah, it has a lot of strengths. It also has a lot of weaknesses.
It's like the best way to put it is if you're ever recommending it to a parent, you are just very slyly wanting to get your kid into anime, get your friend's child into anime, is to say, she'll like it, or he'll like it, you will. Get it grilled cheese sandwich. While you're watching it. Because an adult won't like it unless they're into anime. Unless they've watched Spirited Away, Anime Totoro, they won't enjoy it. For the simple reason it's just lots of pretty pictures with talking involved.
Exactly. So I think that does it for us, and I want to thank Matt from Liking Things of Anime for joining us and providing his thoughts. Thank you, Matt.
No problem. Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much, and we will hopefully see you next time for more thoughts on how we do it better for other anime. So, see you next time.
See you next time.